The interesting thing is you find a lot of people who work in mental health care. So I did spend some time in a mental health hospital or a ward, or I don't know what you want to call it, or what it's called in um, the US or anything. But I got put away for 8 weeks or so, and I got some really close relationships with a lot of the mental health nurses that worked in these places, and it's really interesting to see a lot of them, got into mental health care because they'd struggled in their past, and part of their process of healing and building up some self-esteem and like clawing a life back together out of whatever that situation they found it in, is they found the most rewarding thing is actually caring for others and using their experiences as sort of a sounding board for other people, and a way to relate with people who often feel like they're unrelatable because of the way that they feel. Because you know I don't want to say that everyone should understand people with mental health problems, because a lot of them are really difficult to understand, especially if you're coming from the context of you've got a fairly normally functioning brain, and someone comes to you and say, "Oh, I've got bipolar, or I've got OCD." All they have to draw on is their preconceived conceptions of what these diseases are, and a lot of them are false, because there's a lot of there's been a lot of mental health awareness hype recently. I know last year or something, like the Prince Harry or something, they did what was it called? But they basically did a big campaign to raise awareness for mental health, and as that is really good, and awareness being promoted is very positive, it is also really difficult for someone who's not coming from the inside to understand, not all that information that is being broadcast is truthful. It may be partially truthful, or it might just be plain false. It may be a misconception, and I see that a lot, and I find it really frustrating. It's good that people are making an effort to be more aware, but it's also really frustrating when the powers that be are broadcasting media that is perpetuating negative image, negative either negative feelings or associations, but also things that just aren't quite the truth. There's a filtered version of the truth, which can sometimes be worse than being ignorant, I get. I'm just going to spend a second to read through chat here. Yeah, we're all here for everyone. Bootrix, I assume you're talking about the Medallions community or the Twitch community in general, and that's the best thing that I've found on Twitch, is that everyone's got everyone's back, and very rarely do you get a cunt that's not understanding or makes you feel bad about anything. But yeah, everyone, we're all here for everyone, and I'd just like to start this session by saying, if anyone wants to say something in chat but doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with broadcasting it into chat, you can whisper me on Twitch, and I can read out a message anonymously. I won't reveal who you are, but if you want to share something but you're worried about people attacking you, or you don't feel safe sharing it in this quite public forum, to be honest, I'm happy to read out anonymous messages for you guys. Let's keep going here. I really hope your drive does well, and Uncle Feels is a guy. Hope your drive does well, and Uncle Feels is a guy. Don't 100% understand, Naz, but it sounds like a well wish, so I'll take that. Thank you very much. Medallions TV official, thank you for doing this stream, by the way. It's awesome, pretty great for Twitch, considering it isn't always the best place. Yes, this is my main concern about doing this stream. It is incredibly important to me, and I am incredibly passionate about it. And with that comes the potential for me to get quite upset by things that people say. And Twitch notoriously has a lot of bad manners going on. And as we saw earlier, someone come in, just being a bit of a dickhead. It's hard to let that brush past you, because you want to attack them, because you feel it's your duty to make them understand that they're wrong. But if people don't want to understand it, it's a waste of time pretty much. So that's why, usually my chat is anything goes, with a few exceptions. This chat especially is if I deem anyone to being negative or deliberately hurtful, permanent ban, no excuses, no questions asked. Thanks for making it a bit better, or making Twitch a bit better. I don't know, just doing my little bit. And like I said, full disclosure, this is as much a therapy and a healing exercise for myself as it is a selfless act of public service. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm doing, oh, I don't want people to think that I think that I'm being saintly or anything by doing this, but it's as much as this. Doing this stream literally motivated me to get out of bed this morning, and without doing this, I would still be in bed and I would, still be feeling shit about myself. So, I don't know where I got that from your message, but yeah, this is exactly Jellyfish District. Naz says that is exactly why I want to study the brain. I was going to be going to university to do psychology this semester, but I haven't been in the UK long enough to get student finance, so I've pushed that back to next year. And in hindsight, that was probably a really good decision because I would have failed by now. A lot of blue hearts and a man hugging a heart. Those are all nice. I find some of the stereotypes in games difficult to handle sometimes. Ziggy, I totally agree with you there, but I would even go further as that it's not just like I don't think games are particularly bad for it. I think all media has terrible stereotypes, but at the same time, it is nearly forgivable because stereotypes are important in communication. It is important, you can't, explicitly stipulate everything that you mean every time you reference something. So stereotypes are very important in media and, in games and movies and films and on the radio. Stereotypes are important to allow people to talk abstractions about things. Now, I'm not saying that they're correct because a lot of stereotypes are downright like bullshit and either unfair, unkind, or untrue. But I don't want to write off stereotypes as a negative word because they can be very helpful when you're talking about large groups of people. Katie says, so true. My goal is to train to become a mental health nurse to give back. Is that what I said before about the mental health nurses all doing it because they've been through a lot and it's part of their healing process? Because I had the exact same experience with it. Is that I left hospital and I was like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to be a mental health nurse. I'm not well enough yet to do it, but it's what I want to do with my life eventually. Zell says, that's awesome. Stuffing, thank you. Yeah, completely. Bootrick says everyone has their struggles, and I think that's the most it basically sums up the reason for this stream existing is like, I want people to feel not feel like they're the only one with their struggles, man, like, because there's a lot of us. It's like on that Arrested Development bit where they kind of poke fun at it a little bit, but at least they do it in a tasteful way where Tobias Fumke has got the never nude where he can't be naked, and then they have a conventions and they're like, there are dozens of us. But it's kind of like it's sort of one of these things, right? It's very easy not to look, because if you don't know what's going on with your brain and you're confused about it, it's very easy to assume that there's just something wrong and you mustn't let anyone know about it because there is something wrong. And and until you sort of you get that curiosity and you're like, man, I can't be the only person that feels that, and there has to be a time when someone suddenly looks to see if other people are feeling this way. And for me, that didn't come in. I didn't, I never even heard the term like depression or ADHD until I was like 18 years old, man, because I grew up in a country town in Australia and it just wasn't a thing because we're a little bit backwards. So that step of finding out that you're not the only one and it's a thing is really important. Uncle Feels is Feel Goods Gaming. Oh, Feel Goods Gaming is Uncle Feels. Okay, good to know. Feels Good Gaming is a dude. Feels Good Gaming, are you a part of the medallions? Red Hawk, hey, thanks for stopping by. Can't stay for long, but I wanted to come and say hi. Oh, thank you so much for stopping by and showing your support, Red Hawk. You're an awesome dude. I'm looking forward to your Dungeon and Dragon thing if that ever eventuates. Hi Hawk, hi chat. Run for the Medals is now hosting me with 19 viewers? Fuck, man, thank you. Man. Oh, raiding party. Well, how much chat have I missed? Oh god. I keep rambling and I can't keep up with you guys. Thank you so much for the raid. Zell, I haven't got a shout out command. I don't know how to set it up, and it's intimidating to try, but I'll have it set up one day. Lots of emotes, such a good idea. DTN, howdy everyone, good to see you too, DTN. Thanks for stopping by and showing your support. I'm back. How's it going? What's going on? At the moment, I'm just scrolling through chat, giving my, you're getting a direct link into my brain, how things are. I'm literally just rambling at this point. This is such a great way to bring awareness to people who don't know. I think so. I'm in two minds. I agree, but at the same time, I don't think that's the purpose of this. I don't want people. Well, maybe I do, but I'm not doing this to facilitate people who are curious to, pop in and sort of like, oh, let's gawk at all the people with mental health problems. This is a support group. I assume that most people who are going to attend and get anything out of these groups are people who are struggling or know they have stuff already or suspect or if people are genuinely curious, they're absolutely welcome. But my main goal isn't raising awareness. It's more raising a specific kind of awareness, of just being aware that you're not alone in the world, and there are people you can talk to who won't judge and who will understand and who actually have some useful information sometimes. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, because I certainly don't, but I've got a lot of experiences to draw from, and I can provide some sort of feedback, whether it's helpful or not, but at least I tried, right? Mental health support stream at what's going on here? Oh, Zell's filling them in. Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. I had a huge bout with anxiety and the like this year. If it wasn't for Run for the Medals and the Twitch community, I would have never come back to streaming. Man, I feel you, man. I haven't had anxiety for quite a long time, but it was I used to have really bad social anxiety. It was so bad that it masked all the other problems that I had going on below the surface. Like that, when I had my first revelation, and I went to talk to a student counsellor and I tried to get help. That was the first thing they flagged. They were like, "Man, you've got really bad anxiety. We need to get you on CBT to sort this out." And that was the first thing I ever got treated for, and it was before so much has happened since then. But like, anxiety is, it's often like, I feel like it's often misrepresented as a mental health disorder in itself, and there is generalized anxiety disorder. I understand that. I've not had that. I don't think my anxiety has been a symptom of my other problems. I don't know whether it's the same for you, but I think more generally, now I'm not sure if I should say this because I haven't looked up the data, but in my gut, I feel like anxiety is often diagnosed as its own disorder, when often it is a symptom of of something greater, and that's one of the most difficult things about mental health, is that symptoms, which is what doctors and your peers can see. The symptoms are what people observe, and it's the only thing people can observe. And the same symptoms can be produced by so many different thought patterns or disorders or anything like that. The symptoms, you can't say, oh, someone they start shaking and sweating and avoiding social situations, they have social anxiety. Let's treat that social anxiety, because often the root of that social, people could have social anxiety for so many different reasons. They could have it because, like the reason I had it was, because of my ADHD, and it was untreated, and I didn't know what was going on. It was very confusing and overwhelming, and that's why I didn't like being in social situations. But someone say with, they got attacked once in a crowd, and they suffered PTSD from that, it would produce the same social anxiety. So it's the same symptoms, can point to many different disorders. That's why it's so tricky to diagnose and properly manage. But I think that's what makes talking about these things so important, because in the general consciousness of the world, as far as I can understand, people what's the point I'm trying to get across? I think a lot of people think that anxiety is sort of as deep as it goes. If they're not, if they've not been exposed to a lot of mental health, issues by their peers and family, I think a lot of people, fairly healthy brains, will be like, oh, this person, they've got anxiety. That's, that it's obviously bad. It's very difficult to manage. But I think a lot of people think it stops there, but mental health is such a rabbit hole, because you got to look at the causes, and then there's causes for the causes, and it just keeps going and going and going. And that's been my struggle. I've been diagnosed with so many things, and you'll think, oh, this is what's wrong with me, and then a year later, the therapies or whatever remedial action that the doctors have deemed appropriate for you, they kind of work, they kind of don't. It's not really thing, and they're like, oh, let's have a close look. Oh, actually, this that we were treating was the cause of this that you had the whole time. Let's treat that instead. And then there's another layer and another layer, and it's really confusing. But I think the more people talk about it and understand that, something like anxiety, it can be a disorder on its own, but it's also a symptom of many other disorders, and it's not quite that straightforward, which I think is a trap a lot of people fall into, is thinking that it's too straightforward. Oh my god, I'm ranting so much. How far behind am I, chat? Let's see, we've got a purple love heart from Medal, thank you. Always happy to receive purple love hearts, or love hearts of any colour. Feels good gaming official. I see stereotypes as a positive thing most of the time. I try to see everything as a positive learning experience of some kind. I assume you're commenting on what I was saying before about stereotypes get quite a bad rap, but they are quite important for discussing larger issues. Like, I I was gonna talk a lot about ADHD today. I still might. I prepared some notes and some stuff to talk about ahead of time, just in case no one was in chat and I had to talk to myself. It doesn't seem like that's going to be necessary, because I'm going to be stuck, not stuck, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity. But I'm going to be running through chat and talking more than I should at each point. But yeah, I think even when I talk about people with ADHD, I am a person with ADHD, but I'm a person with ADHD that doesn't necessarily behave in a way that people would expect someone with ADHD would do, because I don't fit the stereotype. But that doesn't mean the stereotypes are negative, because a lot of the time they are correct, but they're not always correct, but they're still important. It's an important communication device for being able to talk about larger issues like this, or issues that affect broader communities. That says, smart uncle, making me inspired again. That's what we're here for. I want everyone to, before you leave this chat today, you're going to be inspired. That's the main goal. I want everyone feeling happy by the end. I even put in my notes right at the end, but we've got a dedicated slot for everyone. We've got to share some memes to make us feel good if we get a little bit too deep into the darker side of things. We've got some feels good one, am I right emotes. They don't show up very well on the dark mode chat, but what is that, a little bunny, or what's your emote, feel good official? I can't see it. Another purple heart from Medals, and one from Red Hawk. Thank you so much, feeling the love. I'll help you at some point. Oh, is that about the shout out thing? Yeah, I installed the problem is all the info out there is for Windows PC. I'm on a Mac, if anyone doesn't know, and if that upsets anyone, I'll understand if everyone just leaves now because I'm a Mac user, because Mac users do come under a certain stereotype as well. But yeah, a lot of the normal streaming utility stuff doesn't work. So I installed one and I forgot my password for it. So I do actually have a chat bot that can do all this, but I don't know how to. I can't access the dashboard anymore, so it doesn't even lurk in my chat anymore. So run for the medals. I myself suffer from mental health problems. I'm glad you're doing it. It's really brave of you to admit that openly in chat, especially being such a, you're quite a large streamer, Medals. You get a lot of exposure, and it's just like, man, the more people watching, the more dangerous and precarious it is to say, well, not dangerous, the harder it is to to talk openly about these sort of things, because there are people who will take advantage, and they'll use, or they will, make fun or use it as ammunition to bring you down and all stuff. And in Twitch especially, I'm lucky, I'm a small streamer, I don't get a lot of dickheads in my chat trying to make me feel bad, but I know a lot of, when you're exposed to so many people, that some of the stuff I've seen in Twitch chat, man, it's just really despicable, and it's really hard to filter it out. But thanks for being brave and talking about it, opening up about it. This is all about open up. I too suffer from mental health problems. That's why we're all here. We've got some love for medals from Ziggy. We've got a bunch of bits from Feel Good Gaming, man. I can't count that many. A lot of little men with what are they called, wrenches, waving at me with bits next to them. Thank you so much. The bits mean a lot to me. But again, maybe I might just preface this whole discussion with please don't donate bits or anything to me during the stream, because I don't want it to be perceived as that's the reason I'm doing this, because it's really not. And if I knew how, I would probably disable gifting bits for this stream, but I don't know how. But but I still really appreciate it, but I don't want it to be perceived as this is not I don't know. I'm fairly new to the affiliate program, and I still feel weird about people giving me bits, because it feels like I'm getting paid for doing nothing. so much support from everyone. I love it. It has been. I'm blown away by how many people have stopped by, and I was really, really nervous that it was just going to be me talking to my own face and feeling so lonely at this. But the rally that I've got here is just been amazing. So much. Thanks so much, everyone. DTN with some purple hearts and some DTN noob emote. Thank you for that. Even more bits. Feel Good Gaming, you're so generous. Sorry for I don't mean to what's the word? Don't want to make you feel bad for cheering, but I just don't. Yeah, I just ask anyone in chat, please don't cheer during this broadcast. Come back and do it while I'm playing Minecraft. Hello, you a psychologist? A Jamonko? No, that is an important point you're touching on there. Big disclaimer: I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I've never been formally trained or studied in any of the community service, the mental health support. I've never done any of that. All my insights and all my comments should be taken as opinion, and they've all come from personal experience rather than formal training. So there will be biases in what I say, because obviously when you draw from purely your own experience, there's no way that one person's personal experience could represent the normal. But I have personally done quite a lot of research, and it's been necessary for me to do a lot of research, because I had to figure out what was going on with my own brain, and I still don't really know, but I have read a lot of material, and I like to think I'll try my best to highlight any biases that I say, and I'll flag the fact that if I say something that's not backed up with a stat that I've read directly, and where possible, I will find a stat, some source material for anything that I discuss that I feel it warrants double checking. I'll do a quick Google search and we'll find it. I'll post a link in chat and so everyone can check it out. But yes, I'm not a doctor. Everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt. I've what's the word? I've been dealing with mental health issues of my own and of my family and of my friends for a very long time, and I've seen a lot of stuff and I've had a lot of conversations. I like to think that I'm quite insightful, and also I'm very open for anyone to disagree with what I'm saying. Try and be polite about it, but if I say something and you're like, oh wait, that's not right, bring it to my attention, because I want to. This is a learning experience for me as much as it is. I'm trying to be informative. I'm trying to learn as well. And like I did say at the start, this is as much an exercise selfishly for me to get myself better than it is to provide a community service per se. That, it's it could be seen as quite selfish for me to be like, oh, everyone look at me and listen to me talk about my opinions and stuff. Like, it could be seen as selfish, and I understand that. But I like to think I can provide some helpful advice, or just a sounding board, or just a friendly ear. Hope I can provide all that. We got some emotes. Captain 7 Shiny from Boz. Zell, thanks, sending out the good vibes. Red Hawk Games. Oh, Feel Good Gaming, man. You've got a few fans in chat, haven't you? That's enough bits to buy some candy to make everyone feel happy. I love it. Oh man, I'd love. Imagine if like someone should set up like an Uber or something, but it's like a Twitch Uber, but it's also a 3D printer and it's also magical. So like, the streamer could be like, I'm gonna give everyone a chocolate bar, and they press a button and it prints out a chocolate bar at everyone's desk, and they can all collectively eat it together. Maybe in the future, but let's see. Ajimoko. I'll learn to say that eventually. Sometimes I see shadows that are not actually there. Are you talking about is that my visuals, or is that your experience in real life? How far behind? I'm 10 minutes behind in chat. Yeah, if you want to clarify Ajimoko, feel free. I've not had experience personally with any psychosis. I've known people who have. But if you want to talk about, yeah, feel free. That's what we're here for. No, Ajimoko, just a community talk group. Oh, that's against the. Am I a psychologist? No, I will hopefully be one day. Anxiety can be dreadful, but mine is always connected to something else that's going on. Yeah, I totally get that, Ziggy. I've cracked this anxiety, gratefully, from whatever combination of treatments and stuff I have. I very rarely suffer from anxiety attacks anymore. I don't know how much of it was therapy, how much is the medication that I take, but at the moment, my anxiety is as low as it's ever been. So I'm very grateful for that. I have other issues, but at least I don't get anxious very much anymore, except like the normal times, like trying to ask someone on a date, or complaining at a restaurant or something like that. Everyone gets anxious about those things. There is one thing I tell almost number one that I really want to tell you. Please share, Phoenix Down. I'd love to hear it. Feels good. You have entered a safe zone. Yeah, this is a safe zone. We've got another purple love heart. Oh, I love it. I have ADHD, and people insult me because 1, ADHD, and 2, I overcomplicate things to the point where not even scientists understand. Oh man, I've been there, man. I think, to the core, I think most of my issues stemmed from ADHD. I have ADHD as well. I'll talk about it more if I ever get time to read my notes. But I've got ADHD as well, and it didn't get recognized or treated until I was quite old. So a lot of my problems that I am dealing with currently can be traced back to risk factors and certain things that people with ADHD have. I've got some real depressing stats about the risk factors of ADHD, if anyone can hear me. But people insult you because people, if people knew how hard it was to live with ADHD, they wouldn't bother insulting you. You've got it hard enough, man. Like, I'm sorry you have to go through that, but if it's on Twitch, just fucking block them, man. If it's in real life, you have my permission to punch them in the face. Not that I'm not endorsing violence. That was a joke. But yeah, you don't. The one like really good lesson that I learned is it's actually really easy to just delete people from your life. Just if someone is being a negative influence, it's really easy just never to see that person again. Like, just stop encountering them, and when you do, just don't talk to them. Like, and anyone who's insulting anyone for having a mental I don't think ADHD is classified as a disability. It's a developmental disorder, but still, you shouldn't be the subject of ridicule in any way. And no one here is going to ridicule you, and if they do, they're going to get immediately banned. But thank you for sharing it as well. Baby Bear Jew, hi twin. Oh, didn't you send me a picture of you? So where we're like actual twins. We've got the same haircut and everything. It's amazing. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Oh, damn! I just clicked on Lightroom. We may lose the stream momentarily while Lightroom eats all my CPU, but it'll be back soon. Sorry about that. Yeah. I was watching you and Medals play Fallout just before this stream, and I was like, I heard you say, it's like, that jellyfish, he's been following me around. It's like the third time I've encountered you today, man. It's always good, always a pleasure. We've got some hellos for Baby Jews. Leaves just to come back from Phoenix Down. Feels good official. All Phoenix, intelligent, amazing person, younger and smarter than I am, with a booming person. Oh, you're giving out a compliment here. That's like, oh, there's Lightroom. Oh, fuck off. I hope the stream didn't drop during that, and I hope that no, it skipped until next week. I'll read this compliment. Intelligent, amazing person, younger and smarter than I am, with a booming personality. The world is complicated, go crazy. The world is complicated, go crazy, overcomplicate things, that's fine. That's your superpower, you got to own it. Now that is some sound advice there, An interesting thing about people with ADHD, right, is in a lot of industries, they'll find the people with ADHD are the ones who find the good solutions for things, because they think about problems in a different way. They struggle with a lot of stuff, and it's really tough, but like Feels Good Game, the official, said, that is your superpower, is overcomplicating things, because that allows you to process, it's a lot more difficult, but it allows you to process things in a different way that, can be super helpful for other people. You on a Mac? Okay, I'm not seeing it. Oh yeah, there we go. Yes, Mac. Not well. Yes, by choice, but also I can't afford a gaming PC, so I've got the same PC that I got for my 21st birthday from my parents, and it's still going fairly strong. We got some hellos. Chatbot, you say? Medals talking about chatbot. I can't remember what I was talking about that prompted that. And Phoenix saying thanks, Uncle. Hi, Boo. Got some hellos. Hellos. Zells. Project Spoon. Hello, Prodigal Spoon. How are you today? I personally don't suffer from mental health issues, but I know people that do, so things like this are very useful for me to gain insight into how people handle their issues, and equips me better to help where I can. You're not, first of all, really pleased to hear that you're not suffering from mental health issues. That's amazing. It seems really rare these days that someone doesn't have something or other, but the fact that you're taking a step to sort of engage with this community, with the community. I don't know what to call it at the moment. Engage in the discussion on mental health so you can learn and you can help people where you can. That's amazing. That puts you above 90% of, healthy brained people who just, treat it with such apathy and, oh, it's not my problem, I don't care. And, but I will say, just because you know people with mental health issues and you want to help them, it's very important that you don't become overly invested in their well-being and recovery. This is a mistake I've made a few times, where you sort of get too what's the word? It's quite easy to become fixated on someone's mental health problem or any number of things, and it can be seeing some of the best intentions you can have can sometimes be a negative influence. I'm not saying they always will be, but it's important to be aware that you personally are not responsible for making anyone else better. You're only responsible for keeping yourself well. It's lovely to try and make people better, but a lot of the time people don't want to be treated as like treated different because of their mental health. They don't want people to try and fix them. So this is an issue that I have within my family, is that I just want to be included, and I don't want to have, every time I talk to a family member, I don't want to have that conversation where they're like, oh, perhaps if you went for a walk a bit more often and spent less time playing computer games, you would feel better. And I know they love me and they're doing it because they love me, but it's they in their minds I've become the grandchild or the cousin that has mental health problems, and that's all I am to them. And that's that might not be the case, but that's how it feels. And I would warn against getting invested in someone's recovery. Be sympathetic towards it, of course. Make allowances for these people to be included within your life, but just don't overestimate your capacity to help other people, because either you may just frustrate them, but you also may end up frustrating yourself, or getting upset with yourself for not being able to help more, because it takes a lot to make someone go from unwell to well. It's a huge thing, and it will never be your responsibility to do that for someone else. I don't know, maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, Spoon. I don't mean to be negative towards you, which I think I might have accidentally been, and I apologize for that. I would just be aware. It's super good that you're trying to learn to understand more, but just don't take it upon yourself to fix someone, because you probably will fail and you'll feel bad about it, and B, you might make the person feel what's the word? Yeah, this is. I'm not sure if I accidentally keep being mean to Spoon. Let's just make this more general. There's anyone in chat who's here because they know someone with a mental health disorder, or they care for someone with a mental health disorder, just forgive yourself and wash your hands of the responsibility of making them better, because that is absolutely not anyone's job. The best way to care for someone with a mental health disorder is, show them that you love them despite it anyway, and try your best. Not make allowances for them to be included, and don't but at the same time, do not treat them like a dying person, or if you know what I mean. I get frustrated with it quite often within my family, so getting a little more passionate than I wanted about that subject, so I'm sorry if I got a bit off topic. How are you, twin? And again, Spoon, you're a lovely guy. I don't mean to throw any shade, but I often don't think about what I'm talking about, so I'm sorry. Sorry if I made you feel bad. It wasn't my intention. I feel a little bit silly right now. I feel like I just went on the biggest rant for no reason. Let's keep going. Man, I'm now... Let's see, the last message was... No, let's see. I'm now reading messages from 7:34. It's now 7:50, so I'm nearly 20 minutes behind in chat. I'm trying to get to everyone. Baby Bear, I'm good. You asked how I was. Also called me twin. It's cute. Yeah, I'm alright. I was feeling shit this morning, but running this stream sort of gave me a bit of a push, and I'm feeling good now. Medals, you put yourself out there in Discord and on here. I respect that so much. It's nice to be respected, man. Thank you very much. But in truth, I've just grown quite a thick skin, and yeah, I just see a need and see a way I can help in a small way, and also it's useful for me to... It's part of my healing process to talk openly about this stuff. Like, I can't stress that enough. Running this stream tonight is probably the closest thing that I get to therapy until the NHS deems that I'm unwell enough to get any. But let's not talk about the NHS. That's a bit of a sticky one. Bootrix, I am so terrible at sharing, but I am trying to be better. I'm so bad with words, though. It doesn't come across in your streams at least. Like I was talking to you earlier on your stream, and you're quite eloquently putting your thoughts into verbiage, and you're being fairly open. But again, it's not necessary. Like this is the thing. A lot of the time, people cite it as a solution is to just talk about it. But if you're not ready to talk about something, forcing yourself to expose yourself is not healthy. Personally, I can think of one time where I shared something really deep and personal with my parents, actually. It's not something I'm willing to share here, but I wasn't ready to share that sort of information, and as a result, I did myself quite a lot of... I stepped back quite a lot. I took quite a lot of back steps. It triggered me to have an anxiety attack. I lost control of myself and basically went into what I call baby bird mode, where I will find the smallest place I can, and I crawled into it, and I just cried for hours, and no one could find me, because I was literally just hiding from the world, and there was nothing I could do about it. It could be seen as humorous from the... Now looking back, I think it's quite funny. I crawled under a picnic table and I was crying under there, so I can take it in good humor. But at the time, it was terrifying because I lost control, and losing control is very scary. Ziggy, you're a great person, Bootrix. Take your time. Sharing's hard and takes time. Yeah, Ziggy knows what's up. Ziggy knows what's up. Boo says, Ziggy, thanks. Things like this stream are a good place to be. I'm glad you guys are feeling some benefit of this. Like, I was so worried that I was going to put in effort and it wasn't going to help anyone, but you guys are really engaging, and it's really touching, actually. Zell, I agree with Alex here, Boo. I find it super hard to talk about it. Yeah, same. No one is required to talk about it in this stream. If you don't want to talk about something, just don't talk about it. I'm not going to press anyone for information. Yeah, it's the stiff upper lip syndrome, or the I'm okay. Oh, the stiff upper lip. This is... I don't know if my mum's watching at the moment. She likely is, because she hasn't called me. And she does follow my Twitch, and I'm really grateful for it. But stiff upper lip syndrome. Well, we had a family member pass away of the older generation, and he, quite hilariously gave the advice of, well, someone's always got it worse than you, remember that. And it's just like, oh, he's got such, it's coming from such a positive place, but that's such useless advice, man. And yeah, I think that is a bit of the stiff upper lip syndrome, which I think, if I had to gauge it in the social consciousness, that sort of thinking is slowly going away, which I think is really positive. It's still there, obviously, but yeah, it is what it is, and you've got to also forgive these people their ignorance, because it is really difficult to understand how someone else's brain works, especially if it works in a considerably different way to yours. It's hard to comprehend for, even for people who study it and stuff. It is really difficult, and I don't think I'm not sure you should assign the responsibility to people to put in the work to understand these things if they're not affecting their life. Obviously, it's touching when they do, but I don't blame anyone who doesn't. I don't get mad at anyone who misunderstands my condition when they find out about it. I don't blame them for not understanding, because why would they bother researching it? Because it takes a really long time, it's really boring to read about, and it's not affecting them directly. So I forgive a lot of that. Baby Veggie, love you, Jelly. Love you too, baby. Thanks for hanging out. But again, Zell says, yeah, it's super hard, Jelly. I can't remember what I was talking about at 7:41. I assume it was something that's difficult to do. But hopefully you've got some solace about having maybe your thoughts or your struggles reflected off my face. I'm glad to have Bootrix and Zell in my life. I'm glad to have Bootrix and Zell in my life as well. They're amazing people. Got some compliments flying around. Katie, what are some of the things people don't know about ADHD that you wish people did? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I've actually prepared a small lecture on the subject. No, I'll try not to dwell on it too much here, because it's a little bit self-absorbed, and I know not everyone here is here to find out about ADHD. If I had to sum it down to one thing that people don't know, well, I'll keep it to two. Firstly, there's a few things. What a lot of people find confusing is the term ADHD and ADD used kind of interchangeably. People often think that, you've got ADHD if you're hyperactive, or you've got ADD if you're not hyperactive. But in truth, it's two different names for the same condition. The condition is not the symptom of being hyperactive or not being able to pay attention. ADHD is a structural difference in how someone's brain developments, which makes them process data in a slightly different way. And being hyperactive or being attention deficit are symptoms of the condition. So that's one thing I'd like people to understand, is that the symptoms are separate from the condition. And I think that's the same for all mental health issues. It's very hard for people to recognize. I did touch on this earlier. The symptoms, one symptom can have many causes or be caused by many different things, and it's very difficult to piece together the puzzle to figure out what is actually going on. The other thing I would like people to know about ADHD, which people don't, is that I'm not hyperactive, but I still have ADHD. Very rarely am I running around with lots of energy, butting into conversations, yelling, making a big scene, and, causing a ruckus in the way people would expect someone with ADHD to behave. I don't do that often, because my ADHD is more of the inattentive spectrum. And, for people who don't know, ADHD there's multiple symptoms that are characteristic of it. They fall under two categories of inattentive or hyperactive. I think that's the two. Inattentive symptoms and hyperactive symptoms, and attention deficit. Maybe there's different categories. Anyone with ADHD will have symptoms from all categories usually. Very rarely will someone just be hyperactive. You know, there's all sorts of symptoms, and that's how they diagnose it. Is you need to display enough of the symptoms so that they can be sure that's the cause. I'd like people to know that I'm not hyperactive, but that doesn't mean I don't have ADHD. It doesn't mean that I'm pretending to have ADHD. I'm very inactive most of the time, and that is a symptom of my ADHD. The last thing I'd like people to know, which is a common misconception, is that ADHD is not the naughty child disorder, and it's got this reputation of being a laissez-faire diagnosis they give to naughty children so that they can put them on drugs to control their behavior. That is not the case at all. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it probably does, but the problem I have with this stereotype, and we did touch on stereotypes before, and I think this is a negative one. The problem I have with this stereotype is it comes with a certain what should we call it? It's a sort of too casual. It makes ADHD sound sort of like a silly thing that kids get that make them misbehave. But what a lot of people don't realize is like that ADHD is not a benign condition. It's quite a bad thing to have, like really bad. And just to demonstrate, this was in my notes, so I do actually have some statistics, just to demonstrate sort of, you know, it's quite easy to understand on one level, ADHD. Well, not easy to understand. It's easy to understand it from one dimension, but what often gets overlooked is the wider standing implications of it. And there have only recently been enough studies into this. Like I was looking through papers before, and you know, there's nothing before like 2010. It's a very new thing, but we've got some stats of the implications of a diagnosis of ADHD. Right, this is my favorite. Adults with unmedicated ADHD are 78% more likely to be addicted to tobacco, and 58% more likely to use illegal drugs than those without ADHD. That means everyone knows how bad cigarettes are, and you know the kill rate of sorry, I got distracted. Typical me. Yeah, everyone knows how bad cigarettes are. I know how bad. I'm very, very much addicted to cigarettes. I'm trying to quit, but it's a hard time. But you know, if having ADHD, it makes you 78% more likely to get addicted to tobacco. And there is another stat that says how many people who are addicted to tobacco will be killed by a smoking-related cause. But that's it has lethal implications. Same with the illegal drug use. You know, it's 58% more likely to use illegal drugs. Illegal drugs, you know, I'm not going to get into the drug legalization and the, you know, that whole political side of it, but there are dangers to illegal drug use, and that has potentially lethal connotations. It is a great one. 79% of adults with ADHD who were not treated as children experienced symptoms of anxiety, depression, and physical ailments, compared to 51% of adults without ADHD. I like this stat because it includes, it demonstrates how common anxiety, depression, and physical ailments are, as in 51% of adults will experience them in their lifetime. I think people don't realize how common they are. You know, that's half of all people. Half of everyone that you know will at some point have depression, anxiety, or some sort of physical ailment. But then in the subset of people with ADHD, and in parentheses, who were not treated as children. So again, it's selective data, but 79% of those will also go on to develop anxiety, depression, or other physical ailments. So it's got serious connotations. So we've got people with ADHD are 14% more likely to be unemployed. Case in point, me. I cannot hold down a job anymore. Hopefully that will change, but for the time being, I can't. But the other stat, this one is, it's very capitalist focused, but I find it really fascinating. Is people with ADHD who are employed will earn on average 33% less than a normal person, than the average person. That is, that's not because people are being like, oh, we're paying you less because you got ADHD. That's because people with ADHD so often underachieve, and they end up in the shit kicker roles because they're not able to pass their education systems. They're not able to get those good jobs, and they end up in jobs where their talents, which, having ADHD does come with a set of talents, useful skills, but unless you get into a job that utilizes them, they go wasted, really wasted. And the problem with having ADHD is it becomes very much it gatekeeps any sort of education, because it is very, very difficult to succeed in the educational systems that we have if you have ADHD, because they're not set up for people with ADHD, nor should they be, because ADHD people, it only represents 5% of the population. It should cater to the 95%. I'm saying that, but overall, people with ADHD can expect to earn 1/3 less than anyone else, which obviously has huge implications on the quality of life, yada yada yada. And the last statistic I'll bore you with is that ADHD people are over 5 times more likely to attempt suicide, which personally I've dealt with, but suicide rates generally in our society are on the rise, and within this community it's on the rise 5 times as fast. And I want to highlight the fact that some of these disorders, they seem kind of trivial, oh, I can't concentrate, but they do manifest because the inability to concentrate, it can be cute nearly, to the right type of person. It's like, oh, look at him, he can't focus because he's distracted and he's full of energy and all that. But having that as a condition, having that projected over the lifetime, an entire life, the amount of the impact is sort of hard to quantify, because it's not that big of a deal in day-to-day life, but the quantitative, cumulative effect of it over the course of a human life, that results in being 5 times more likely to attempt to kill yourself. And that's really fucking serious, and it frustrates me when there is that the stereotype that, oh, it's the naughty boy syndrome, because it's sort of, what's the word, like, I don't know, it's like, calling Hitler, oh, that angry moustache dude, like, it's sort of, yeah, it's kind of right, but you're missing out a whole chunk of the spectrum, and it's sort of maliciously inaccurate is how I'd put it. The Twitch machine, oh fuck, is my stream gone down? Am I still streaming? Oh, it looks like, sorry guys, I've just got to restart my browser here, make sure I'm still live. Right, yes, I'm still live, sorry for that. Let's see, I am now 25 minutes behind chat, because I'm ranting, I'm sorry. No, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's nice to hear me rant about this. The ADD part. Um, Phoenix Down. What were you talking about just before? Oh, being teased for having ADD. The ADD part. I can manage the hyper part, but I lose my attention in the tick of a nanosecond. I hear you there, mate. I hear you there, mate. Anything that's not giving me instant dopamine, I'm not interested in. And that becomes troublesome when you're trying to fold laundry and shit like that. Zell, it makes you feel worse when you get people saying that to you. Can't remember what you're referencing, Zell, but it sounds like a sound comment. Phoenix Down, sadly I have to go. Thanks all so much for helping and everyone else here on Heart. Oh, Phoenix Down, thanks so much for participating. And yeah, be sure to be in touch, man. Also, it's good to know other people with similar conditions so you can talk about it and stuff. It's really helpful. You've got a lot of goodbyes. Spoon, no man, feels like you are speaking to my situation perfectly. I do project that onto myself, and there are times where I make it worse rather than better. Right, Spoon. It sounds like you took it took my word in the best possible light. I'm glad I haven't offended you. But yeah, I think it is, just to touch on it again, what I was saying to Spoon earlier was that it's really important not to sort of take personal responsibility for someone else's mental well-being, because in reality one person has very little impact on the mental health. Well, no, let me phrase that different. One person has very little impact on getting someone else to recover. One person can have a huge amount of impact on someone's mental health. I know many people who have been completely fucked up by the actions of one person, and it's a lot easier to damage someone than it is to fix them. But it is really, it's thin ice to be taking on someone else's recovery. There are professionals who do that. There's a frustratingly small amount of professionals with frustratingly long, but you as a normal human being, the best thing you can do is make them feel included. And I don't want to understate the importance of that either. That is hugely important to allow someone to feel normalized and included in normal life, rather than being ostracized for having a mental health difficulty. But saying that, don't push them away if they want to talk about it. If they want to talk about it, let them talk about it. I can't talk for everyone with a mental health problem, but I've gotten very good at picking whose advice I will listen to, and spotting advice that is misinformed and useless. And I just sort of like nod my head and go, oh yeah, here we go. And inside my head, I'm thinking, oh, just another person who thinks they know. They think they know everything when really they don't. It can be frustrating, and you don't want people to secretly have those thoughts about you, you know. And yes, thanks for sharing. Good point, Ziggy. I nearly forgot to thank for sharing. We've got Medallions TV official. Not to interrupt, but you should make this a scheduled stream for everyone in the Medallions and everyone on Twitch who needs a space like this. That is the plan. The plan is to make this a regular thing. I will say, I know myself quite well, and I know my limitations. In order for this to become a regular space, a regular occurrence, a regular discussion, which I think is really important and would be really beneficial for it to become a regular support space for people online who want to sit and chat in a safe space about this. I'm not going to be able to manage it on my own, because I know what I'm like. You know, I woke up I say this morning, it was fun. It was like 2:30 in the afternoon. I crawled myself out of bed and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a mental health stream because it's going to be so helpful. And it's, I got really inspired and things. But, this time next week, I'm probably going to be like, oh, fuck. Like, I can't rely on myself to muster the energy to do things regularly. That is part of my problem. That's one of my many struggles, is I can't tell day to day what I'm going to be able to be capable of the next day. I could go to bed feeling on top of the world and so happy, and wake up in the morning and feel like dying. And it, as far as I can tell, it's completely random, which it definitely isn't, because a brain is a computer. It doesn't operate randomly. But yes, I'd love this to become a regular thing. In order to do so, I am going to need help. And anyone out there who thinks this is a positive endeavor and wants to help me out, I invite you to send me a message, get in contact, because I'm going to need support to run this regularly. And I think it would be really positive, but it being really positive isn't enough to guarantee me being able to continue to do it. So please do get in contact. I'd love to have other people on the stream to talk to verbally as well. I think that could be really useful, or to do it in maybe like a guest hosting sort of way, whereas this is a regular space for it, but it's not necessarily me on my channel doing it all the time. I don't know. It's a very young idea in my brain, so there's a lot of possibilities, but I definitely know if it's left up to me, it will die out, because that's just how I work. I will lose interest and motivation, no matter how important things are to me. That's just how things are. But yeah, I'd love this to become a regular thing, and I'd love someone else to do it so I could just attend it. Here we go. Ziggy says, my little brother has ADHD. He was only recently diagnosed. You say little brother, how? You don't have to share this information, but is he still a child, or is he little to you, as in he's in his 20s now and he's just been diagnosed? I will say, if someone gets diagnosed as a child, it's their life. A lot of those risk factors come right down, which is fantastic. But for those of us who don't find out until adulthood, the prognosis is a little bit more serious. So I do pray that he got diagnosed as a child. If he's an adult and he's just got diagnosed, strength to him. He's got a bloody hard road ahead of him, and it's probably already been down a hard road if it got to that point, to be honest. But all my love to him as well. Sirius the Great, I was wondering, what were your favourite ways to cope under the spectre of an increasingly oppressive government and imminent environmental collapse? Oh, easy question. Why are your questions so easy? You realize this is a beefy question, and I could talk about this question a lot, and I have at length at the pub with random strangers who will listen sometimes. This is something that concerns me greatly, is the wider state of the world, the state of the environment, the state of the government, all sorts of horrible things that are going on in the world. And I hate to say it, but the only way to deal with it, the only way to deal with existing in a world with so much negativity and so much foreboding and a sense of impending doom in it, because there is so much of it. There's so much that's about to fuck up and everything's about to go to shit. The only way to deal with it without getting depressed is to just not think about it. And I hate to say that, because I never want to be an advocate for willful ignorance. But the problems are so huge, and your impact and your ability to solve the problems is so minuscule. There's no way to contemplate those larger problems and compare them to your ability to make any sort of difference and then not feel depressed. And I think I know there's this sort of meme that goes around Facebook that it's a kind of it's something I quite disagree with, but it's a thing like, you know, like people post, you know, a certain kind of people will post on their Facebook, be like, oh, you know, people with a higher IQ are more likely to get depressed, you know, it's because we think too much. And like, it's a humble brag. If you're posting that, you're not being sympathetic towards people with depression, and that's like you're bragging about being intelligent, and I disagree with that. There is a correlation between, you know, higher IQ, more brain activity, and depression, right? Okay, I'm going to stop myself there. I haven't got the stats to back that up. So if anyone's got the stats, at me them. I feel like I've read that somewhere before, but I can't remember where. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just drawing off experience here. I believe there is a correlation between higher IQ and depression. Now, that's not it's a correlation, though. It's not a causation. It's not saying, oh no, you know, having a higher IQ is what I get depression because I think about the world. I think the problem is the world is, like, unfortunately, is a really largely terrible place at the moment. You know, I am very lucky to live in the UK, a place with, you know, it's got its own problems, right? But when I became too unwell to work, the government did step in and pays me an allowance enough for me to live. You know, if I lived, say, I don't want to single out any countries because I don't want to be perceived as being racist against any particular group in the world, but say it made up country, Ballerina Town, you know, in Ballerina Town, it's my fictional town, but I think they're not let's say, I don't want to say as advanced as the Western world, because it's not that the Western world is more advanced than the rest of the world, it's that they've set up a system that sucks the wealth and well-being out of the rest of the world. But say you're on the bottom end of the food chain economically in the world, and you live in that country, and I am born in that country with the brain that I got born with in Australia and moved to England, you know, in one of these more well-supported areas. If I become unable to work, I just sit on the street and I starve to death. In many places in the world, if I'd found myself there with the conditions that I have, I would be dead already because I wouldn't be able to support myself. I'm very, very grateful for the systems in place that allow me to live. But I'm also very aware that in order for those systems to exist, somewhere else in the world, someone has to be being exploited. And this is a cause of a huge amount of sadness to me, because it's the old thing, no wealth is gained without bloodshed. All the money that is in the West making our lives really good, and that we still get depressed in, and, you know, there's still problems, and, you know, it can be perceived as a shitty place to live through the right lens. You know, I don't want to say, oh, you know, there's worse people off, but it's not that there are people worse off and you shouldn't complain. The problem is that the systems that enable such a cultless society to exist are evil. You know, it's all, you know, lots and lots of people have died and suffered to allow us to have plastic bottles of water and computers and Twitch. It's hard to know that and not be really super fucking bummed out about the state of the world, you know? And I don't think it's possible. I think you've got to censor your scope. If you're aware of everything that's going on, you will be depressed, because there's a lot of fucking horrible things going on in the world, and even more than I know or anyone knows, that, like, a lot of awful things happen in the world to facilitate the relatively comfortable life that I live in. There's no way I can accept that without feeling supremely guilty, unworthy, and evil. And so the only way I can live in this world, well, I say that, but I am very depressed. So I'm not do what I say, not as I do. You know what I mean? Like, the only way to do it without getting bummed out about it is just to not think about it. It's like that Rick and Morty thing. It's like, no one has purpose. No one exists on purpose. We're all gonna die. Just come watch TV. I think Rick Sanchez actually says the answer is to not think about it, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish the answer was to think about it more, but you have to pick your battles somewhat. Oh man, that was a heavy one. Thank you for that question, Cyrus the Great 22. It was a curly one, and I probably spent like I said, I could talk for hours about this, because these are the things I worry about in real time. But thank you for the question, man, and sorry for not having a more uplifting response. Prodigal Spoon, trying to get this person to speak to anyone is so difficult. I realise it's not easy to open up, but that can be frustrating for me, for sure. That is, seriously, man, I relate so hard to that. And this is kind of why I give the advice that I do about how to have a friendship or a relationship with someone who does struggle with a mental illness, because it's so difficult to tactfully say, get off your ass, go and get help, because you're not going to get better by your own, which is technically the truth. And it's a difficult truth, because I have personally been in states where I don't want to get better. These things become so. So I want to offer another quote here, and this is again, see the people leave the stream because they find out that I listen to Bring Me the Horizon. But there is a quote in, which album was it? I think it's There Is a Hell, Believe Me I See that There's a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret. At the very end, the last song, is it Hospital for Souls? And he has a little monologue at the start. A lot of it is wank, but there's one bit that really resonates with me. It's like, even hell gets comfy once you're settled in. And that is so true of people suffering with mental illness, because there's naturally ingrained into a human mind is a fear of change, because change means risk, and the brain's job is to keep you alive. And if you are still alive after doing what you've been doing for a long time, even if you're miserable as fuck and you hate it and you don't want to be alive anymore, you are still alive and you are still surviving, and your brain is going to learn, try and teach itself that this is necessary to survive, and any change you try and implement puts that system at risk. And I've been there, and I don't understand everyone's case, but I understand it in a level where I've experienced is you get so low, and you've been so low for so long, but you're kind of just getting by, and you just resign to the fact that, oh, this is just how I feel all the time now, and this is my life. And anything, it's really hard to think, I'm going to go out and do something to change this, because there's no certainty that things will get better. And quite often is the case is things that get worse before they get better. And it's a hard thing to confront. And from your perspective, Spoon, where you've got, a friend or a relative who's not going to go see someone, yes, it is super frustrating. And, I've experienced that as well. It's frustrating because it can seem so simple It's so logical, right? Is that you're struggling, go and get some help, and things will get better over time. It's a logical conclusion, and it's you know often the truth. But from within the system, you can't see that. You see it as an unnecessary risk, um, and so you reject that notion. You don't necessarily listen to logical thought, and that is incredibly frustrating for those around you who care for you, because they just want to see you get better. They want what's best for you, and it's very difficult to understand that someone might not be ready to get better yet. And that's something that I don't think gets said very often, is that some people are in the depths of it and they're not ready to try and get help. They're too fragile to seek out help. And it very much is the case that they are too fragile. That, so you can never be sure how close to the edge someone is, and going and having to talk about something deeply personal, to a psychiatrist. They are professionals and they're good at talking and getting you to talk in insightful ways. They're good at that, and they're professionals, and they do that. It's great, but it doesn't mean that some people sharing some of this information makes you feel extremely emotionally unguarded and vulnerable. It's like, it's like, I don't know if anyone, like, I'm trying to think of a more fun way to put this, so it's not just old. It's like, imagine you're in high school, right? And you're going through puberty, and it's confusing, and you don't understand your own sexual feelings and desires, and you suddenly discover you have, I don't know, a foot fetish, right? For whatever reason, you like to, when you go to masturbate, you watch foot porn. Not kink shaming, but it is unusual. In your context, it's in your brain, and you don't understand it. You're a teenager, right? You've got hormones, you're all confused, and you hear all your mates talking about what they're into, and it's not what you're into, and you're like, fuck, if anyone finds out what I'm into, that's the end of me socially. I'm just going to get teased forever, because that's how kids work. And that's kind of analogous to how it feels going to a therapist, right? Is because these are all you internalize all your feelings and stuff. It's like deep within you, and they're like your little secrets, and you don't want people to know. You don't want people to know how vulnerable you are. You don't want people to know how much of a struggle life is. You want people to think that you're killing it. And so the concept of going and talking to someone about these, perceived weaknesses and vulnerabilities is just, it feels like social suicide, and it just feels like there's this, I don't know if there's a name for it, but there's this feeling of whether it's the therapist or a friend, when you say something out loud for the first time that you never thought you'd tell anyone, there's this awful feeling that follows it of just, it's like being flung out into space. You don't know where you're going to end up orbiting. You do not know. You have no precedent for how people are going to react to this, or what people are going to say about this, or whether or not you're going to be ridiculed for this. It's such a leap of faith. I would just say, just be understanding of your friend. I know it's frustrating to see someone not getting the help that they clearly need, but also people need to be ready for the help. Otherwise, the help is not going to be any help. If that makes sense. Alex Ziggy sounds so hard, Spoon. Yeah, it does sound real hard, man. And if you ever want more personalized advice, I'm happy to talk to you directly on Discord, man. Hit me up. You know where to find me. Ziggy is happy to host one. Are you talking about another mental health support stream? Yeah, ditto to help out. Oh yeah, I got some. Oh, this is where I was talking about. I was asking for help. Oh, Katie, Man, everyone is helping. Well, this is good. Maybe we can keep this thing alive for a few weeks at least with all this help. Katie, I will. Can you whisper me, and I'll get you a link to my Discord so we can chat on there because that's where all the organisation's going to happen. Alex Ziggy, yeah, ditto to help out. Alex Ziggy, he's 29, lives at home with mum and dad, and has awful depression. I'm not sure who you're talking about, Ziggy. Is this someone that you know? Or are you talking about... I don't know. I'll have to get more information on that later. Magnet light. Oh, Jelly is so adorable. Oh, thank you. A compliment. Compliment. I've cheated. I've just read ahead, but I've seen what you said, Ziggy. You're talking about your ADHD brother, diagnosed at 29. Man, that is so rough. My best wishes to him. I personally got diagnosed when I was 22, and there's you get served such a delicious bittersweet variety buffet of emotions, and you get to sample all these different things and have all these thoughts you never had before and confront all these issues. Man, oh fuck, I'm having like flashbacks about my diagnosis, and to be 29 and get that, man, it's gonna be... I'm really sorry to inform you, Ziggy, it's gonna be really fucking tough for your brother. But at the same time, if you need to talk about it, I'm here. If he wants to talk about it, by all means, send him my way. If he wants to come into this forum and listen to me rant about it, please recommend it. But yeah, my heart goes out to him, man. It's got to be hard. Magnet Light saying that I'm adorable. I don't see it, honestly, Magnet Light, but thank you very much for the compliment. I'll take your word for it. Boo, saying I'm doing an amazing job tonight. Oh, thank you, Boo. Wild Runner, hi. Hello, Wild Runner. 8:21, what was that? That was like 16 minutes ago. I'm sorry it took me so long to acknowledge your greeting, but hello, welcome. Hopefully you're getting something useful out of this stream. I don't know. I won't know how it comes across until I watch it back, but you're very welcome. Yeah. I should probably periodically explain what we're doing here, just in case people are popping their head in. So if anyone... I think I'm nearly caught up with chat now anyway, but yeah. Welcome, Wild Runner 12. Hopefully you find some sort of positive vibes from being in this room. That's it. We're all up to date. Oh. Man, that was quite intense. I just gotta take a breath now. Just taking a breath, guys. Man, I've literally been ranting on subjects that people have brought up in chat for the last hour and 40 minutes. Like, I don't know how it was perceived. What's the right word? I don't know how it came across. I hope I was being insightful and helpful for some people. I've got to take a break now. I've just been going, and I'm just going to take a quick moment to shut up for a minute. Who's still actively listening, by the way? Let's get a shout out in chat if you're still in the room and not just lurking. I know Alex and Boo are still here, so thank you so much for sticking it out. Spoon's still here, Zell's still here. Man, any feedback you guys have would be greatly appreciated as well, because I'm obviously very self-conscious about talking about this stuff, and I'm anxious to hear what you guys think. it's not been so much of a I feel like it's been less of like a group forum of discussion than me just reacting to comments for a long time. I feel like, what's the word? I was getting carried away. I don't know if it's good or bad. Oh God. I just want to answer everyone so thoughtfully, you know, because I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things. Spoken a lot of sense. Yeah, I just need to take a minute. Just take a minute to process. Can barely remember what half the things I've said, to be honest. God, I need a cigarette. And I think what we'll do is do like question time, sort of. I've prepared ahead of time. I've got a few, you know, prompting questions and things I'd like people to, well, hopefully I'd like people to share and talk about in chat, so we can, you know, maybe address some other people's more personal issues or things that are a bit more relevant than just my rantings. But I'm going to have a quick cigarette and then we'll get on to that. I'm going to keep the headphones on, but technically if my landlord's watching, I'm actually going downstairs and outside to have my cigarette, and I'm definitely not smoking out the skylight. Very, very honest. Right there. Right, let's switch that off so there's no incriminating evidence. Oh, what do you guys think of the jazz, man? Do you guys like the background music? This is like my favorite, one of my favorite YouTube channels. It just plays live jazz with a light sound of rain in the background. And it's like, it's not that like abrasive jazz that's in your face and so fast and technical that it confuses you. Just like if my local council watches my stream, I only have 3 cats and not 8. Well, if Spoon, I will say, if your local council is coming around for an inspection, you need someone to look after 5 of your cats for a weekend. I'm your man. I fucking love cats. My mum has the cutest cat known to man. My mum's cat is the absolute best, 10 out of 10 best cat in the world. That's another thing. What do you guys feel like? There are studies and stuff, I haven't looked them up, but I feel like they often say that having a pet is like one of the best antidepressants, just because stroking a cat or patting a dog literally just will release in dopamine straight into your brain. You meant to mention the music earlier. Good level and nice pace. Yeah, man. It's called, if you want to listen, I'll put the link in actually. It's called Rainy Jazz, YouTube, and it's a streamed channel that never goes offline. It just plays jazz 24/7. It's good if you're drawing or doodling or writing. I was listening to it earlier while I was writing my lecture that I didn't actually end up needing to use, which I'm pretty grateful for because I didn't proofread it. Oh my god, Nelson really keeps me going. Nelson's your little doggo, isn't it? Or your big doggo. Your doctor prescribed that you get a dog. Your doctor is woke AF, man. The jazz has been a perfect accompaniment. I totally agree with the idea that people need to be ready to get their own help. I think it's a big one, and it's a really difficult point for people who I don't want to be exclusive, but to me, you know, you're either in a mental health battle of your own or you're not. If you're lucky enough to be in the second category, there is one downside, is that if you're not in the midst of it, if you're not in the shit yourself, it's really hard to understand and comprehend what other people are going through. And I think people often get quite spirited and angry about that, but also people don't recognize how difficult it must be to understand, you know, how other people's brains work, man. It's so complicated, and people just expect people to be able to pick it up, and it's not. I don't know. I can't finish these. I can't finish my thoughts now. I'm like making half thoughts. When I used to code, I exclusively listened to classical, but it has not got my creative juices flowing this time around. Maybe time to give the jazz a go. Yeah, jazz up your coding, man. Do some jazzy code. You could even write the jazz into your code. Do like your while loops with, like, you know, in a... I was gonna say like in a odd time signature, but I guess what loops don't really go in a time signature, do they? They just I don't know. I learned C++ in university, and I was great at it, and I loved it. And then we had the one fateful lecture where they were like, now you have to allocate memory whenever you do something. And I was like, I'm out. This is too complicated. I really want to get back into coding. I've got lots of ideas for coding projects that I want to do that I don't have enough coding knowledge to finish. And it's just one of my many quirks of my mental state, is that I have so many projects I want to get done and never have the impetus to get started because there's too many steps involved. He's my boy. Prodigal Spoon with a cat pic. She's an amazing GP. She listens and understood, and where she knows the help isn't there for my physical condition, she's not put me through pointless referrals that she knows would upset my mental health. Ziggy, good GPs are like diamonds, and if you find a good GP, never leave them. I think you should be able to marry a good GP so that they can't leave you. I've got a really good GP at the moment as well, and I'm very, very grateful for her. She's so understanding and so good. And I've been with her now for a year and a half, and I'm just, if you guys are interested in my personal story, at the end of this month, I'm actually getting into see my first psychiatrist since coming to England, which will be 2 years since I've seen a psychiatrist, which is a little bit shocking, seeing I'm on medication that requires constant monitoring of the health of my heart and updating of my medication that the doctors can't do. So you need to be a psychiatrist. For those who don't know, ADHD is treated with stimulants. A drug called Ritalin, a lot of the time, is what I'm on. It is chemically very, very similar to cocaine. It is basically, as I understand, it is a chemically synthesized version of cocaine without the organic tag that makes cocaine addictive. And for whatever reason, that's what they use to treat ADHD people. Now, a normal GP isn't legally allowed to prescribe this medication. It's controlled. You have to be a psychiatrist. To get to see a psychiatrist in this country is a really fucking long wait. And it's because I got diagnosed in Australia, I had my scripts, so I've been on this medication now for quite a long time, but it hasn't been updated, and its effectiveness has never been assessed for a long time, and it really needs to be. So I'm very excited that at the end of the month that I'm taking, not the first step, but one of the first steps to actually go and see someone who can, you know, tweak things a bit and hopefully make things a little bit easier for me. Kitties. Oscar isn't even my cat. He belongs to Mrs. Spoon. Nah. Mrs. Spoon, that's cute. I did games development at university. C# is for you. Has its own garbage disposal. I don't know. I kind of want to learn one of the more simple languages for simpletons, so I can do more complex things with less thought. If you know what I mean. Boo tricks. I went to the GP about 10 years ago, but they basically told me it was being a teenager and I would grow out of it, so stop wasting time. Boo! That is something that we haven't touched on yet. God, that makes me mad. That makes me so mad, and, you know, for the first half of this stream, I forgot that that was a thing. But that is totally a thing, and that is a huge, huge problem, because, let me get into this a bit more, a lot of mental health problems that people have, either you're born with them, they develop over time, and puberty, aka when you're a teenager, is one of the most stressful times in anyone's life, because everything's changing, all your emotions change, all your motivations change, and things get really fucking tough. And it is the time where in a lot of cases, those teenage years are where the seeds are planted that grow into the bigger problems that you have as an adult. And so often a teenager will go to seek help during those years because they're like, I don't feel right. You know, how are they supposed to articulate, oh, I've got depression, or I might be bipolar, oh, I've done some research, I think I've got borderline personality disorder. No teenager's going to be able to figure that out. So they just go to the doctor and be like, man, I think I'm so different to everyone else. Can you sort it out? And the doctor then turns around and goes like, oh, you are going through puberty, so there are some changes to be expected and some level of confusion. And it's like, yeah, you know, but it's bad enough for me to go to a doctor and ask for help, and you're shutting me down. You've now put back the entry threshold for therapy maybe 10 years, because nothing more embarrassing than going and sharing that sort of, you know, deep, really personal information with a doctor, and then being told, you know, essentially being rejected. You're going to end up with, you know, a huge amount of anxiety of bringing up those things again, because a doctor, a person of authority who you respect and trust to help you, has shot you down and you know, you're not going to get bad enough to ask for help again until way after you're due for help. And that is such a huge problem, and I know other people who that exact same thing has happened to. You know, if we're talking celebrities, there's an author named Bryony Gordon who wrote a book called Mad Girl, and, you know, for this reason and that reason, I know a bit about her, and that was her story as well. She had really severe OCD, which went undiagnosed, and again, she went to the doctors as a teenager, and they just fucked her off. And it just basically with these things, the earlier you catch it, the better. It's like cancer, man. It's like, you know, it'd be like a teenager going to the doctor and being like, oh, I've got this weird lump in my breast, you know, can you check it out? And he's like, oh, you know, you're going through puberty, breasts are lumpy, let's not check it out. And then you're like, oh, that was embarrassing, I just had to talk to a stranger about my boobs, let's not bring it up again for 10 years. 10 years later, the lump's a lot bigger, and you're like, oh, I should really go and get this checked out. Or, you know, you go and he's like, oh, actually, you've got cancer. Should have started treating this 10 years ago. You're probably going to die now. And that's like exactly what it's like for young people with mental health. And it gets me so fucking angry, because it's the absolute worst time for that to happen. Like, me as an adult, if I went to a doctor, if I, you know, if I got to the point where I went to the doctor and I was like, hey doctor, look, this is happening in my brain, can you help me? And they were like, oh, you know, it's just stress, go eat an apple and get more sleep. You know, I would be like, yeah, doctor, fuck you, like, give me the next doctor, you don't know what you're talking about. But when you're a teenager, because that doctor is an authority figure in your life, you're not going to question that, and you're just going to internalize all that and make it, you know, you're going to feel like that is your fault 100%, and that is just the worst time to put that sort of guilt onto a teenager. It's despicable. There's another rant. Let's see how many more rants we can squeeze out of me. We've been going for like 2 hours now. Do you think that might be like a good length for this segment? Is it a 2 hour? I didn't get treated for my depression until I was 30, and suddenly it mattered to treat me because I was in full-time work. Yeah, because then they could assign a dollar value to your time, and they can see the loss, the financial loss of your condition, and then suddenly everyone cares about it. Again, that is, you know, for governments and policy making, it is good that they can observe the financial cost of mental health, because hopefully it will incite some change in the world. Because without those stats, no one important is going to do anything about it until someone important is losing a lot of money. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. When I was a teenager or a student, no one cared that much. I feel you, Ziggy. I'm sorry you had that experience. I wish it wasn't a common one, but I think that happens to loads of people. You know, and it's really sad to think about. Alright, I'm coming back on cam, guys. You can see my luscious beard once again. Let's see. I'm going to, I think I'm going to call it at 9 o'clock and say, 2 hour segment. That's a pretty good slog. But I do have a few little things from my notes that I thought might be fun to discuss as a Twitch chat. Give me a lot to think about. We're only here for your facial hair. I know you are. One day I'll shave and I'll never see you guys again. That's it. Anyone who's lurking in chat, who's a bit too shy to participate, I did say at the start of the stream, but you might not have been here. If there's anything you want discussed, you don't feel comfortable posting in chat, feel free to whisper it to me, and we can talk about it anonymously for you. I'm very happy to do that. What else? Yeah, I've got some just a little bit of questions down here that I thought we'd throw to the floor. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about in particular with the time we've got left? I'm very happy to discuss any topic you throw my way. And let's see, what else have we got? Well, I was going to ask what you thought of my lecture, but I didn't end up giving it. And just more a general question, what do you guys think of the concept of a mental health support group stream? I know I'm not the first person to do this. I'm the first person I've encountered doing it, but then I don't investigate very much. But do you think this is a worthwhile pursuit and something worth working towards continuing long term? I guess is what I'm doing. I like the idea. It'll be super helpful for a lot of people. I think so. I like to think so, but I know I don't often see the what's the word? The unadulterated truth. I project a lot because it's because I think of it now as my idea because I came up with it, without prompting. I know I'm not the first person to have it, obviously. But I get quite emotionally invested, so I tend to overestimate the impact and the importance and stuff. So I need to, I'm aware that this is what I do and that's how my brain works. So I do need to throw it out to you guys to get some clarification and some encouragement that I'm not, being silly. It's fabulous, and you're an excellent facilitator. Awesome idea. Oh, thanks, guys. That's made me feel good about it. Let's open this one up. Is there anything in particular anyone wants to ask me about my personal experiences? I know I didn't really go into them very much over the course of this lecture, and there may be, there's people popping in and out all the time that maybe don't know. But if anyone has any questions about my life and my experiences and what led me here, I'm just going to open up a sort of ask me anything sort of deal. It's exactly the space I need at the moment. Katie, that's so... Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I use your real life name? By the way, everyone, Suffling here runs a vegan food recipe blog on Facebook. It's called Vegetalian. Let me just get a fucking link up here. Vegetalian recipes. Anyone who wants to find some healthy vegan meals, which I know some of you do. Fuck, I've lost my chat. Here. Check that shit out. That's some good shit. I'm glad you found it helpful, Katie. And chuffed to see you here as well. I've not been really holding up my end of the friendship bargain for a while now, but it's nice to see you still remember who I am. Is there any experience? I know most of you are still active in chat. You have shared quite a lot already, so I might not ask that. But anyone who may be lurking, if there's anything you've experienced that you want comments on or thoughts about, feel free to share anything in the chat there to try and like I said at the start, it's a safe place. Anyone doing anything negative is going to get banned immediately, so you can feel safe. You can also DM me if you don't feel comfortable posting in the chat, but if anyone wants to share any particular experience and wants some comment or some group what's the word, brainstorming within the group. Hey, from Melbourne. Oh, wonder who that could be. Nina do you mind me revealing your true identity, or do you want to keep that a secret? Oh, this is a... Nah, it's good. Nina is my sister, everyone. My amazing older sister who lives in Melbourne in Australia. Where did you begin to get your own help? Let's see. I'm gonna maybe I'm gonna start with what prompted it. All right. Because this is, I think, a bit of an interesting perspective. From my background of living in regional Australia before the world of the internet, and we had the internet obviously, but it wasn't quite the same internet we enjoyed these days. But from my perspective, living in rural Western Australia, where people just did not talk about mental health, like I said earlier, I don't think I heard the word depression until I was 18, and I'd already been suffering it for 10 years. But at that point, that I never heard the word, let alone considered the possibility that I had it. I just thought I was fucked up. Basically, I thought that my brain was broken. I had to keep it a secret from everyone because that's just was the done thing. Basically, while I was in university, I guess about aged 19 when I started university, about age 19. In Australia, I had a car. I don't have a car in England, but that's because it's expensive. Yeah, but I had a car. I used to drive around from place to place, and basically, just one day, I was driving to work to school. I think I was driving to school. I was driving to university in my car, driving along the highway, and I went over this bridge, right? And this thought just popped into my head. I was like, going to be a lot easier than, you know, trying to make a life out of this shit pile that I've got going on at the moment. It'd be a lot, you know, it's probably the clever decision just to swerve my car off this bridge and into the river and just end it all there. Like, I began having that discussion with myself within my own brain, trying to justify, weigh up the pros and cons of driving to university, continuing my education, you know, continuing my existence, or versus driving off a bridge and ending my life. And I was having that conversation with myself within my brain. Thankfully, halfway through that conversation, another thought popped into my head, which was, I wonder if these thoughts are normal. I wonder if normal people have these thoughts. And, you know, it took a while, but that was definitely the turning point for me, where I was like, fuck, my brain is trying to justify ending its own existence to itself. There is something really fucking wrong here, and I don't know what is wrong. I can't understand it, and it was at that point that I decided I needed help. And the first place I went, I can't remember where I heard about it. The university had a student counselling service, basically, and I just went there one day. I skipped my class. I was feeling too shit, and I went to uni with the intention of going to class, and I got there, and I was feeling like too much shit to go there, and I was just like, man, there's something deeply wrong here. So I just walked into the counsellor's office, and, you know, they gave me a form to fill out, and they're like, you know, all these questions, like the triage nurse trying to suss out why you ended up in the counselling office, and, you know, it was just like, oh, have you ever had any thoughts of ending your own life? And I was like, yeah, just on the way to uni just now. And it was, you know, I ended up having like a 10-minute session with the triage nurse, and it was just like, you know, they were like, yeah, you fucked, man, you fucked. We gotta fix you. And yeah, just immediately sent me to the GP, and that's sort of where it all started, was seeing the GP. You know, they give you this standard test which measures your levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. I got pretty much a straight A on that test, and that led me into getting therapy and stuff, and it was a really fucking long road from there to where I am now. You know, I was I think I was like 20 or 21 when I first went to the counsellor. I'm now 27, getting closer to 28, and I don't know if this is the thing, is I've put in so much work over these years, I cannot say for sure that in the last 8 years whether or not I've made any improvement at all. And that's the really difficult thing about living with a mental illness, is that it is really fucking hard work, and there is an expectation that you put in the hard work to try and make yourself get better. You know, like Spoon was saying earlier, it's really frustrating to see someone who needs help who's not getting it, and it's really hard to understand. And, you know, I would have put myself in the same category, you know, before. You know, I certainly know a lot more now than I did when I was 22 or whatever, but in terms of being any better off for it, I can't say for sure that it was all worth it, you know. And that's why I'm very cautious about giving anyone advice that's like, oh, do you know what, just keep swimming, you know, it will get better one day. Because I do not have the evidence to say, you know, keep up the hard work, go to the therapy, take the pills, talk to your doctor, you know, do everything right. I can't say that made any difference at all to me. I mean, I'm still alive, that's great, you know, but how can I tell that I wouldn't be in the exact same place if I just hadn't bothered getting any help at all? And it's frustrating, it's confusing, and it's scary. It's really fucking scary. And yeah, it is a bit difficult to deal with, I guess. That might be the understatement of the year. It's difficult to deal with the lack of progress that you see. It might be happening, I might be making progress, but it's so slow that it's hard to see the increments from within the system. Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm sure you guys have similar experiences. I'm not. If I ever meet someone and they say, "Oh, I had depression and then I got better," I am always skeptical of that. I shouldn't be, but I always am. I'm like, really? Guess you didn't really have depression then. You might have just been sad. But then it's not a well-informed opinion to take on someone. That's an assumption that I make because mine's not getting better, that no one's will. I still have hope that it will get better, but that's the thing, I guess. Thank you for the question. Oh fuck, I've not been reading. Thanks for the question, Boo. Everyone's saying hello to my I nearly said little sister, my big sister. That story sounds sad, so sad and so familiar. Yeah, that's another difficult thing. It is really fucking nice for someone to understand where you're coming from and be able to empathize with how you're feeling, but you know, I know what you've had to go through to reach that level of understanding. And that's fucking tragic, and it's really sad. And you know, it's one of the worst things that someone can say to me is that, oh, I genuinely understand how you feel, because it is lovely. It's lovely for to be understood, and it's lovely for someone to extend that understanding to you to make you feel less alone and stuff. But you know, to get it's not a random stranger that's going to be saying that to me, but you know, to get to the point where someone's, you know, you meet lots of people in your life. They come and go, and you meet some of them you chat for a while, some of them you don't, but you know, you have these conversations with a variety of people, and then there's always a point, no, not always, with a certain percent, well, statistically, with around about 50% of the people that I've ever met, you always have to have this conversation where they say, I understand how you feel, and I'm like, fuck, there's another person who's had to go through this shit. It's so sad. And it's sort of bittersweet. It's like, I'm so glad that you understand, because we can build from this, but also it's really fucking tragic that you understand, because I know what you had to go through to gain that understanding. Sorry, intrusive thoughts, yeah, they're fun. Oh, intrusive thoughts, we love them. Intrusive thoughts. Saying that, running this stream wasn't an intrusive thought. It wasn't. They just popped into my head, so they can be good, I guess. No problem. One day at a time. Always one day at a time. Absolutely. Do you feel it's often two step forward, one step back kind of deal? Yes, I do, but like in the essence of the phrase, not the quantification of the phrase. It's quite often 10 steps forward, 9 steps back, if that makes sense. It's more jerky than 2 and 1. 2 and 1 would be manageable. It's definitely less stable than that. Do you mind if I share one of my blog posts? Share away. I don't know if links will appear in my chat, but happy to paste it in there. If it doesn't show up, DM me on Discord and I'll post it. And if you want, I can read it out if you want. Does it show up? I didn't see it. You're gonna have to DM it to me. Do you want me to read it out? Oh, it did show up. Yeah, that makes sense. Are you gonna at me on Discord? Where are we here? Get that blog post to me somehow, Ziggy, and I'll have a read through it. That is, if you want me to read it out, let me know. If you don't, if it's a more private thing, or you want people to quietly read it themselves, then I'll just post the link for you, but let me know. Let's see, I've got another couple of... this is quite an important. I don't mind if folks read it. Ah, sweet. Let me know where to grab it from, and I'll post it in the chat here. This is another one. I was wondering if there's any. Well, it doesn't really make sense because I didn't I didn't do the lecture I planned. You know, thankfully there was enough people to talk with for this whole time. I did have a whole spiel. I was going to go into a lot of detail about what ADHD is and send it on DM Discord. Okay, thank you, Ziggy. I was going to go into a whole spiel on what ADHD was, and you know, some misconceptions and analysis and all this stuff. I didn't end up going into that. I still will in the future, but I was following that. I was going to ask if there was any topics that people wanted covered more meticulously in any future streams that I do. But it seems that if they're all if the streams are always this active, I'm never going to get to do a lecture. So it's maybe a bit of a redundant question, but we'll see. Have a little look. See. That's pretty much all the content I have, guys. I'm just gonna. Ziggy, do you want me to read out your blog post? I might just read it after the stream, if that's okay. Because I think I might call it here, guys, because I've sort of gone through. You can do. I mean, of course I can do, but it's whether you want me to or not. I don't know what is in that blog post. Thanks for the stream, dude. You're welcome, Spoon. Thanks for being a big part of it as well, man. You've asked some really, probing questions, which were really helpful in keeping the dialogue running. And again, I apologize profusely if I came across as a little bit critical of your first comment. It just ticked a certain box in me, and I had to pull myself back a little bit. I'm okay if people just want to read it themselves. Alright, Ziggy. Thanks so much for the stream, man. Excited to see where it goes. Thanks for being here, Katie. That's amazing. I haven't seen you on Twitch before, so I'm just going to assume you made an account especially to come and join in, which is really special. That means so much to me. All going well, guys. This is going to be every Friday night stream, so I'll be doing this again next Friday night. What is it? 7 p.m. GMT or 2 p.m. EST. So watch this space if you want to get back on this train. But yeah, I think I've sort of exhausted my my content for the time being. So I'm just going to say goodbye. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. And it wasn't amazing. I think we only had one troll in the whole stream. So feels good. And I'll see you all. I'm probably going to play Minecraft or something for a few hours, but I'm going to take a half-hour break to eat some toast or some shit. But see you next Friday. Might be at work. Cannot be here. Nina, it's good to see you doing this stream. You're so articulate, passionate, engaging. I'm proud. Oh, stop it. You'll make me blush. You're my big sister. You're supposed to bully me. You're not supposed to... No. Thank you so much for coming, by the way, Nina. I wasn't expecting, yeah, it surpassed my expectations. If you're not working, you can watch me play Minecraft later. That will be fun. I'm crying because there's been siblings love. Alex, if you want, I know your brother's going through shit at the moment. If you want, real sound advice of being the best big sister in the world, hit up my sister. She's fucking mint, man. Victory. I'll try and make it next week. It's real special that you made it here. Actually, I'll chat to you after the stream if you're not at work or something. Anyway, guys, it's like this thing. It's like at parties or like family gatherings. It's like everyone just keeps saying goodbye over and over forever, and it's so frustrating when you need to go to the toilet, which is the situation I'm in now. So I'm gonna cut the stream. Thanks everyone so much for coming out. It was really encouraging. And I love you all, and always here if you need a chat. You know where to find me. Bye bye.